All right, welcome to Against All Odds, part of the Ringer Podcast Network. Cousin Sal here, heel producer Jim, all the way to the right. I say all the way to the right because this is our first video podcast. It's also our first rewatchable. I am here with my friend Harry. I'm here with Darren, the Parlay Kid, as well. Harry is dressed up. He got dressed up for this. You're taking this seriously, Harry.
Oh, this is a big time. Once we're on video here, I want to impress you, Sal.
Harry's wearing a sport jacket. I mean, he looks like he's attending his own trial for public urination. He's going in front of the judge. But I'm impressed, Harry. Looking good.
Well, you know.
Yeah, no, it's good. Parlay Kid is here. So what we're doing here is we are going to preview and review the January 2nd, 1994 game. It's week 18 game between the Cowboys and the Giants. The winner won the division, got a bye in the playoffs there. I say week 18. I'm not making a mistake there. There were 18 weeks back then, right, Parlay Kid? 18 weeks, 2 byes, which I forgot.
You kind of forget about that, right? I totally forgot about that until we got back to this rewatchable here to realize there were 2 byes that season.
Got 2 byes. Darren and I are huge Cowboys fans. Harry's a big Giants fan, and we had the privilege of watching that game together. Now let's take you back to January 94. Here's what was going on in my life. I was a law school student. Yes, no, you're not. There's no audio issues here. I was actually in my first year of law school. It was my winter break. Parlay Kid, was this your first semester teaching?
No, it was Dayton? My second year, Sal. I was coaching wrestling at the time, so I took I must have taken like a couple days off from wrestling.
Right.
Which is make this trip happen because we've never been out to Vegas.
We'd never been out to Vegas. We had never been away from our families for Christmas. But I think my Aunt Joan, Jimmy Kimmel's mother, was in town in New York for the summer. And it's like, why don't you guys come out for Christmas? And I think just being nice. And we were like, all right, what the hell? I'm going to go. We're going to get 5 of our friends who've never been away for Christmas. And we're going to go out there. And then we're going to bookend it with a drive to Las Vegas. And that's where we watched this game in particular. Harry, you were finishing up at Oswego, right? I had already graduated. You still needed more time, despite the fact that the college was in your town and you could have taken unlimited summer classes. You needed more time to graduate, get it done, right?
Well, remember, I failed out because I pledged that stupid fraternity. So that cost me a semester. So it took me 4.5 years, whatever, to graduate or whatever it took me. I finally got done. So then you came up with the idea, let's go out to Vegas. Let's go out to see your aunt and uncle. Jimmy's parents stayed with them. Like you said, we went to the Giants. We went to the Giants Cardinal game before we hit Vegas. Great time.
Right. The week before, December 26, 93, we went to the Giants Cardinals game. The Giants lost that game, right? 17-6. I had totally forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And so set up this game, which, like I said, was for the division and for a bye. Both teams were 11-4, Cowboys and Giants, going into this January 2nd game. Jim Cunningham, our heel producer, just to put things in perspective, you came up with a list of things, other things that happened before or around that of January 2nd event. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so January 2nd, 1994, Mrs. Doubtfire was the #1 movie in the theater. It returned to #1 after Wayne's World 2 knocked it out for a week, and then The Pelican Brief. And the following week, Philadelphia was the #1 movie, which starred Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington and that Bruce Springsteen song that you couldn't escape, that was everywhere. #1 song in the country was again by Janet Jackson. The top sitcoms were Home Improvement, Seinfeld, Roseanne, Grace Under Fire, and Coach.
I remember all those.
Yeah, and this was the first year the Bulls didn't have Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan retired right before that season. So this was the year that Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets beat the Knicks in 7 games. And John Starks was never allowed in a restaurant in New York City ever again after that.
Is that right? He was the villain.
Holyfield was the heavyweight champ. He won the title from Riddick Bowe in November in the Fan Man game when the guy flew into the ring ropes.
I remember betting on that too.
Yeah. And LeBron James was 9 years old at the time. Mike Trout was 2 years old. And Giannis, Pat Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson were just stains on the back seat of their dad's cars.
Wow.
So
all right.
Cool,
Thanks for the color there, Jim. Appreciate it.
And the president was Hillary Clinton's husband.
I think I remember that guy. I do remember that. Yeah. And so we were friends. So this gives you a little indication of how long we've been friends. This is now, how many freaking years is this? Is this 26 years? Over 26 years. We've been friends longer than that, but this is 26 years ago. Just to really conclude here, we were in Las Vegas. We were getting our asses handed to us. Actually, Harry had a roulette system. He was winning. This is January 2nd. We went from the Algiers Hotel, no longer exists. There's like 5 of us in the same room. We went to my Aunt Chippy's house and we stayed there. And I think our plan was to wake up and hit the like the Stardust or something and watch this game together. But I believe, Parlay Kid, this was the early game and we were just so tired we couldn't get up for 10 a.m. to head out to the Strip. Am I right?
Yeah, that was the plan, Sal. We had been in Vegas for a few days. I don't know if you remember, Sal, but I lost my wallet in Vegas.
I do remember.
I don't know if you remember. I lost about $800.
Was it that much? Oh my God.
That was that much, Sal, which at that time was about a month of work for me.
Darren at the Stardust.
That was devastating. I don't know how I got through the rest of the week. I don't know if you guys were giving me a couple bucks here or there, but I lost it, I think, within 10 minutes of being in Vegas.
I remember.
I got the wallet back, but there was no money.
I remember you saying, I don't even want the money back. I just want the wallet.
Yeah.
And then you got the wallet back. You're like, what kind of maniac takes the money and leaves the wallet?
That's exactly what happened.
All right. But
exactly.
So there we go.
Right.
We're fully trenched in Vegas, although we're in my Aunt Chippy's house. We're watching from my cousin Mickey and Sally's. Shout out to Sally. It's her birthday today. Watching from their bedroom that they grew up in. Here's the game. Like I said, week 18, winner gets the NFC East and a bye. It's a regular season game. As far as regular season games that felt like a playoff game, this is tops. Nothing. I don't think anything tops it. It's 40 degrees. You have Reeves, who's a first-year coach for your Giants, right, Harry? Actually played for the Cowboys for 8 years. First-year coach for the Giants. They hadn't been in the playoffs in 3 years. He's going against Jimmy Johnson. The Cowboys had already won their Super Bowl, 52-17 the year before. Coming back, Parlay Kid, this was the Emmitt Smith year. The first 2 games we lost.
Yeah.
Emmitt was holding out and then gets signed. What was it, 4 years, $13.6 million, which was a ton. It made him the highest paid running back in the league.
Absolutely.
Right?
And the Cowboys became the first team to ever go 0-2 and win the Super Bowl at that point.
Yeah.
Which also showed you the significance of what Emmitt Smith meant to that team. They lost their first 2 games without him. He came back and immediately started winning football games.
Yeah. And this game further demonstrates what he meant to the team. He was always one of my favorites. I had a little run-in with him years later. You can read about my book. It pains me to talk about it. Harry, you may know this already. I pulled the line for this game. What do you think the spread was? Over, under, inside.
Did I see it? I thought it was Dallas -5.
I don't know if you saw it. It's 6.5.
And I would say the over-under probably was about 41.
35. So
wow,
they're expecting
35.
a low-scoring game.
Remember, Sal, Dan Reeves, head coach, but he also called his own offensive plays.
Right. Well, maybe he shouldn't have, because the Cowboys had outscored them 61-12 in the last 2 meetings. Give it historical. Well, actually, the Giants weren't even expected to be good this year. It was they were over under was 7, and like I said, they're 11-4. Ended up 11-5. 50-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. Cowboys plus 350 Parlay Kid, which is as short a number as you can get for a team heading into a season, having won the Super Bowl. Their over-under was 11. They win this game. That brings them to 12. More on Emmitt Smith real quick. He ended up winning the rushing title. He eked out Jerome Bettis by 57 yards. Bettis won Rookie of the Year that year. That was a year I think Barry Sanders played 11 games, but another great year for Emmitt. Like you said, Darren, coming off the contract, the holdout, right?
That's why I named my dog after him. So my first dog
That's
I
right.
had for 16 years, name was Emmitt, right? So this game was kind of the one of the reasons why I decided to do that. Yeah, what a year, what a player, Sal. And just look at the back of his football card, and you could see the longevity along with the production almost every single year.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Harry, you want to say anything about this game before we get into the first quarter? Your Giants are going to lose. I'm warning you in advance.
You know what? It's a tale of 2 halves, right? Exactly. I mean, Dallas did. Giants held their own on the defensive end, though, to keep this game close and to give Phil Simms and the rest of the team a chance in the second half, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting. So it starts off, and Pat Summerall, John Madden calling the game, which is great because you see them in their Parkers. It's cold. Darren, the public address announcer was Robert Merrill, right? The Yankees guy. You could hear him in the background. He's great too. Just the sounds. And Summerall comments right at the top of the game. I don't think I've ever heard a crowd this ready. There's snowbanks in the background. Summerall, it's amazing, this team. I'm looking at this team. They stayed together until 2002. Madden went another 7 years till 2009. Summerall used to be a color commentator. First of all, he was a kicker in the league. How many kickers do we know that, do we know any other kickers that are like play-by-play or color guys for that matter? I don't think we do.
I can't think of one. I know there's a couple sideline reporter kicker guys, but nobody doing the play-by-play.
Ralph Benershka, believe it or not, a Chargers kicker, hosted Wheel of Fortune after, I think it was after Chuck Woolery, before Chuck Woolery, between Woolery and Sajak. I don't know what it was, but that's it. I don't remember a kicker, but I can't even imagine Summerall as a color commentator. I just know him in this position. They were fun together. And there's Harry, the names: Armstead, Myron Guyton, Lawrence Taylor. This was Lawrence Taylor's last year. This was Phil Simms, I believe, 16th season.
Yeah.
Summerall comments. Go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I believe it was 16th season. And you mentioned before that also, I think that overall Madden in this game, me and Parlay Kid had discussed it a little bit the other day when we watched it on Sunday. Madden was unbelievable this game. Just with everything he dissected, talking about offensive linemen, pulling, making blocks, showing it, explaining it. It was phenomenal with everything. And his Maddenisms were great in this game too.
I can't tell. I can't tell what's actually valuable and what's just a Maddenism. A lot of boom, boom, football stuff. I love to hear it. I really do. I love the sounds of it. I don't know that I learned a ton watching from him. Summerall at one point, and maybe this is true, they show Simms' numbers for the year: 28, 31 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And Summerall says it's been a very, very good year for Phil Simms. Parlay Kid, but as we learned, that was a very, very good year for quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, well,
anything over 2,500 yards.
Technically, Troy Aikman's quarterback rating was his highest that year.
Yeah.
And he threw for 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
when you throw it Emmitt Smith all the time, it'll be all right.
Puts things in perspective.
Well, I think he was the passing leader that year, right? I think at the end.
It's quite conceivable. He was close to 100 on the quarterback rating.
Yeah. I just think most yards. Yeah.
Listen, if you watch this, you watch this game and you watch Aikman, one thing you realize is he was your prototypical quarterback. Yeah. His form is great. He basically is everything you want in a quarterback. He just wasn't asked to put up great numbers at that time. Yeah. It just wasn't what the Cowboys were about.
One of the most accurate passers of all time. I know Harry has a problem with that.
Well, but can I say something here?
It's funny. Hold on real quick. As I was watching, I did notice like that last like year and a half where everything was an outlet pass to the fullback. It just killed us, Parlay Kid, to watch. But this was nice because he was throwing downfield. Go ahead, Harry. Now you could crap all over him.
He didn't throw downfield this game hardly at all. I mean, he threw a little bit to Irvin in the first half. Johnston on the sidelines, Emmitt Smith the whole game. In the second half, he didn't make a pass downfield whatsoever.
Yeah,
you're going to be accurate when you don't throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field.
Well, Michael Irvin ended up having pretty good career numbers, so I don't think this game is indicative of every single game that Aikman had. Plus, they won, and they were 12-4. But what else I want to say? But just the names: Dave Meggett returning the ball. Not a lot of scoring this game, so I just want to bring up some fun things that I saw in the first quarter. Simms, it starts off, Simms has a big pass to Pierce, who fumbles. Woodson recovers, and then Madden reminds us it's important to get turnovers, and you can't turn the ball over. Is this one of the things you said, Harry, when you talk about how?
I don't know if that's what I meant, but I just think overall he did a great job. But yeah, Aaron Pierce, like he wasn't even the starting tight end for the Giants then. It was Howard Cross, but yet he went to Pierce. It was a great pass by Sims down the middle. Maybe the best pass of the game between for him or Aikman in the game, and just like hold on to the ball, go down. You know, it's just such a great start for the Giants getting the ball, and then that happened.
Yeah. So that was a Parlay Kid. I don't know if you agree with me, but I hated those big giant tight ends. Forget about Bavaro and the guys, but Pierce and Cross. And every time they'd catch the ball, it seemed like they were flexing
Zeke
all the
Mowat.
way back to the huddle.
How about Zeke Mowat?
Zeke
That's
Mowat
another
was
one,
another
Harry.
one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Giants had quite a few of them back then. I think they were one of the teams, especially with Bavaro at one point. They kind of made the tight end what it is even more so today. The Giants kind of started that a little bit back then.
So one thing I noticed graphically, and I you think about this, like when we were growing up, we were 10 or 12 years old. No, we're 21, 22, 23 years old now. And there's still no score at the bottom of the screen. You still don't have any time. And the first check-in, the first out-of-town scoreboard check-in isn't until 8 minutes left in the first quarter when we see that Phoenix. Yes, Phoenix. 7-0 lead over Atlanta. You want to know how they scored the touchdown? Well, you're not going to find out from CBS because it says Sanders 7 interceptions leads NFC on the bottom. That's the scroll underneath. So we have really come a long way. People complain that it's in our face all the time. You cannot go away from seeing a score or seeing the clock or seeing the game clock or anything. Harry, what did you think about that? Like we just didn't know better, right?
Right. I mean, look, I was noticing as well as the game goes along, they didn't do any highlights of any other game when they did do a check-in with Gumbel, where they just did the Green Bay Detroit game where Brett Favre happened to throw 4 picks that day, and they never showed one highlight of his pick, but they showed the Detroit touchdowns.
Right. All the games they're broadcasting, and they only showed Green Bay, Detroit. I think they only showed three times they checked in for a video highlight. And it was every time it was that game. The Cowboys had a good team. They had Maryland, Casillas. Maryland gets hurt in the game. Casillas, Tolbert. You got Brown and Smith, Woodson in the secondary. It's nice.
So 11 Pro Bowlers on Dallas that year.
11, I think 3 for the Giants. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. They were a good team.
Why didn't you kill us then?
Well, we did. I just told you it was like 62-17 over 2 games. But so something happens. Oh, so there's a false start. Cowboys get the ball after that turnover. Eddie Murray kicks a field goal, 3-0 with 4:37 left. A left-footed onside kick.
Yeah.
Pretty good kick. Jesse Armstead picks it up.
Yep.
And then Jeffcoat and Jimmy Jones sack Sims. Aikman keeps a drive going, 3rd and 6. He runs for it, first down. Cowboys have 7 first downs to 1. Cowboys lead after the first quarter. And Harry, we're laying there. Harry, Darren and I, were we pretty good sports about this so far? I think we're all nervous.
Yeah, I think we're all nervous. But listen, I was very happy actually with the 3-0 lead, considering Dallas had the ball in the first quarter for 13 minutes. 13 minutes in the first quarter. Armstead, by the way, Novacek fumbled before that field goal too, and how the Giants didn't recover it and Jesse Armstead didn't recover that was incredible. 3 Giants around it. They don't get it. They fumble it out of bounds, so they give Dallas a field goal, but still only down 3-0, having the ball for 2 minutes in the first quarter. I was still feeling okay, but you guys, everything was fine. Everything was good at that point.
Parlay Kid, how are you feeling at this point? 3-0
well, Sal,
in New York.
With all of our teams, especially at that age, we were never too optimistic. We never wanted to feel that good about a game.
Right.
And Harry's exactly right. At that point, you felt like the Cowboys would kind of dominate the game, but they're up 3-0. So that really didn't bode well for them at that junction. So, and one thing I'd like to also say too, in that first quarter, Madden does make a reference to Emmitt Smith in that first quarter. He actually says how Emmitt is a very hard worker in practice, but the coaches that week happened to say Emmitt was as focused as they had ever seen him. He says that in the first quarter before Emmitt's injury, about how he was more focused for this game than they've ever seen him for any other game in his short Cowboy career to that point.
Yeah, right. It was early on pretty much. All right, second quarter starts. Speaking of Madden, Kevin Gogan, gigantic lineman for the Cowboys. He has trouble with his helmet, and Madden does like a 5-minute stand-up routine on this. 330 pounds, you got a big guy losing his hat. He's got to fight his hat. He puts his hat up. It's just A lot of gets involved in the word salad. You're not even sure really what you heard afterwards, but it's entertaining. Cowboys punt. This is where Russell Maryland goes out. Dallas is pressuring Sims. They punt. Aikman throws to Irvin, 22-yard pass. And Emmitt is like 13 for 49 early in the second quarter. They're throwing to him a lot too. 3rd and 4, you get a 15-yard screen pass to Emmitt. Another 3rd and long, middle screen to Emmitt's just short of the 4th down. And Emmitt, though, on 4th and inches goes for it, powers ahead. 1st down, 2nd and goal. Aikman to Emmitt, a middle screen, 10-0, halfway through the second. And then Madden reminds us, Harry, that big players come to play big games.
Well, that's what they listen. Emmitt was great. Emmitt, during even up to that point, before he broke the big one right before right at the 2-minute warning, he was just being so elusive. It was really something else to watch. I mean, he's slipping the first tackle. I know that we'll get to it in a little bit. That CBS showed a phenomenal stat on how he avoided, took the 2nd or 3rd or 4th Giant to tackle him just in the first half when he had 23 touches. But yeah. I mean, it was something. And even Aikman was going to Moose Johnston too on screen passes too, little flares out to the side. Johnson looked good too.
Right. Right before the 2-minute warning, he has almost a 50-yard run, Emmitt does, and he falls on that shoulder. And at this point, Parlay Kid, he's 19 for 109. He's been involved in 25 plays between the receptions and the rushes for 151 yards. And in comes Lincoln Coleman. Yeah. Even up 10-0, we couldn't feel too good about this.
Not at all. Lincoln Coleman, Harry, from Baylor. I can remember almost every player and where they went to college in this.
There you go.
But Sal, little thing that Madden had mentioned too, and that I've always mentioned about Emmitt, and this kind of helped him get through the rest of the game, is no matter if he ran left or right, he almost always carried the ball in his left arm. So even with that right arm injured, which he was really one of the best stiff armers too with that right arm, which we didn't see that after he hurt his arm. But the fact is, it didn't hurt him in carrying the ball with that left arm. And as they had mentioned during that, maybe it was even Summerall who mentions it, but about how he's significantly a left arm ball carrier, which actually then helped him for the rest of the game. But we did not feel good about this at all. But rest assured here, Sal, within a play, we hear that it's a shoulder bruise and he's back in the game already.
That's it. I think he sat like 1 or 2 plays.
That 28 years
crazy.
Ago, whatever.
Exactly. And Aikman gets sacked. We take a field goal. We're up 13-0 at the half. Looking good. As Harry said, the time of possession is dominated by the Cowboys. The only hesitation for Cowboys fans is this Emmitt Smith injury, but it looked like he was going to be okay coming back into the second half. Harry, anything you want to add about the first half here?
Well, yeah, I mean, also, Russell Maryland went down with an injury too. So him and Emmitt both left the game before Eddie Murray kicked that field goal to go up 13-0. So still, it was a little scary for Dallas fans there because, Russell Maryland was also a Pro Bowler that year too. So, and once the third quarter started, both guys hadn't come out from the locker room yet. And then it came out that Russell Maryland was done for the game.
Right. One thing that was interesting to hear is Darryl Johnston catches with screen pass. I think you mentioned it, Harry. And we hear the moose. We hear on the road, you hear the moose. Moose chat. What is that, Harry?
That is true, but that happened anywhere. And Moose Johnson did go to Syracuse, and the fans, though, when the game was on the line and everything in the third quarter, fourth quarter, and the Giants made the comeback, the fans there were loud. It was loud, and it was all New York stuff. It was all New York fans. It was loud. Darren.
That was as loud as of a Giant crowd as I've heard. And just to give some Moose Johnson some more props, Sal, I think this is a game too where we talk about Emmitt, but man, he was on display this game too. What a great player!
How big were his pads? I mean, honestly,
I don't know how you could catch a ball like with those shoulder pads. Like, it doesn't fit.
It was like a shelf. It really was. Did they say that was his first year making the Pro Bowl? I can't. I don't know if that was. It might have been. I'll have to look that up.
It might have been. He had about 57 catches that year for the Cowboys too. And even if you're watching the game, he wasn't just catching them from like coming out of the fullback position. They would line him up as a receiver even once in a while. It must have just been what they had done for that game, and motion him and then throw downfield to him occasionally.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally. What an underrated player. He was fantastic in that game as well.
Definitely was. Hold on, as I look at this real quick. Yeah, 93, 94 were his Pro Bowl year. So that was the first of the two. All right, so 13-0 Cowboys at half. Wow, I'm very excited to see how this turns out, but let's take a quick break for an ad. All right, we're back against all odds. Cousin Sal here. Darren the Parlay Kid. Harry is here. We all watched this game together. Cowboys-Giants, January 2nd, 1994. The winner gets a bye and wins the NFC East. Actually, the Cowboys could have tied and they would have gotten a bye and won the NFC East. So it was really a must win for the Giants here in New York. Down 13-0 at half. The Giants get the ball. It starts with the cross, gets a 9-yard pass. And then we see on the sidelines, a la Willis Reed, here comes Emmitt Smith. They don't have the ball. So I guess he's got a little time to come out of the locker room. And they say he's got the padding stuff, extra padding and stuff. Parlay Kid, what does that mean, extra padding in his shoulder pad? Could you do that today?
The only thing I could think of is they took some foam or something and put it underneath the shoulder pad. That's the only thing I could think of what they did. And they still at that time were diagnosing him now with a strained right shoulder.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Later found out it was more significant than that.
Right, exactly. Okay, so now here's where the game kind of turns, like the momentum turns a little. Giants are forced to punt.
Yeah.
It's a muffed punt, partially blocked. It wasn't Sean Landeta. It was Haran, right?
Yeah,
They let Landeta go like a couple of weeks before. And Kevin Williams comes up to field it. Now, if he gets it on the hop, that looked pretty true.
Yeah.
He could be off. There are a couple guys in front of him, but if he sidesteps them, which is possible, he could be off to the races. But instead, he muffs the punt. The Giants jump on it. Armstead gets hurt, and all of a sudden they have good field position. Harry, you're feeling good right now. This is probably the first and only time you could throw it in our face.
Well, it was finally something that happened because in the first half, they couldn't get anything going passing, obviously. And Rodney Hampton didn't get any. He had I want to say he had 19, 20 yards at halftime. So he really they couldn't have anything. So we needed something to happen. And then this happened. And now it was both one team had recovered a fumble. I don't know what Kevin Williams, I know what you're saying, but it's just like maybe he didn't see the ball exactly. It just bounced off like that. And that recovery by Marcus Buckley was huge. So that got us going. And then got Sims and the team going, and they got downfield. On a third down completion, big play to Easy Ed McCaffrey, his only catch of the game on a clutch third down, and then Bunch took it in.
Bunch took that in. Yeah, Callaway caught it to the 5. The crowd went bonkers there right before the Bunch third and goal from the 1.
Callaway was huge all game for the Giants.
He was good. Had a little attitude too, like a little short guy. Just throw it in the Cowboys defenders' faces. Parlay Kid, I'll say this about Kevin Williams, Miami guy, University of Miami guy. So he's a Jimmy Johnson favorite. I think we kind of got sick when he muffed that punt and the crowd woke up for first time.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened, Sal, because, I think as a Giant fan, you were probably thinking coming out on that first drive, you needed to do something. Even if you didn't score, you probably needed to get a few first downs, get some momentum going. And the Giants got nothing. And now you're punting and you're almost resigned to the fact, well, if the Cowboys get this ball, come down and score, this game is probably over, right? Even if they kick a field goal, there were no 2-point conversions back then. So even a 16-0 lead for the Cowboys would have seemed almost insurmountable at that time. So that muffed punt really saved the game there for the Giants to give them some life at that time and the crowd some life because it was just about to be over, I think.
I might have got pumped up at that point, and I got a little loud, and Sal might have tackled me on the bed, right, Darren? I don't know. Sal didn't like it so much.
That or a Yokozuna you, one or the other.
Right.
Ass first.
I wasn't allowed to get up. I wasn't allowed to get too happy, I guess.
Yeah, no one's allowed. Harry knows. He's been there before when you get excited rooting against my teams. Cowboys get the ball. We see, like we talked about, Packers-Lions. We get a third update from that. No other games from CBS. That's just how it was. Giants have the ball. I believe it's 3rd and long, but whatever it was, Sims scrambles left and throws right to Rodney Hampton, who Pat Summerall excitedly refers to as Howard Cross. It goes 35 yards. They both have a 7 in their number, so you can understand that. And there you go. And again, the crowd is pump. Sims overthrows Mark Jackson in the end zone. Summerall says, Megat Jackson never saw it coming. It's just the greatest. It just keeps going. And then Treadwell field goal, 13-10 with about a minute and a half left. And that's that for the third quarter. Right?
Well, Sal, right before that, though, before the great pass by Sims, like you said, rolling left, going right to Hampton, that's when Jeffcoat did sack Sims. And one of the Maddenisms in that game is where he made a great point. He said that Jeffcoat, who was great the whole game, he really was. He was on Sims left and right. He said he hit Sims so hard, he made a lateral out of a forward pass.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. That was a good line.
Yeah. And then the next play was the Sims play.
Right. But I will say before that, Madden was said, well, all you have to do is see that hand going forward. You know, it's a forward pass. That's the end of the discussion. Like, no, anyone who knows football knows that you got to now check to see if it's a lateral or not. But Parlay Kid, how are you feeling at this point? 13-10 heading into the fourth quarter.
Not feeling very good here, Sal. Dallas's offense has become very stagnant. We know Emmitt's hurt. The Giants have seized momentum. Rodney Hampton is not, he's almost matching Emmitt carry for carry here. As we could tell at the end of the game, both of them ended up with over 30 carries. I think Hampton with 30, maybe Emmitt with 32. Madden would later remark about them basically being the greatest game he's ever seen two running backs have. Yeah. And this is all Hampton in the second half. Like Hampton really didn't do much in the first half. So I'm not feeling good right here for the Cowboys at all.
Yeah. And you mentioned their carries, but again, they're catching ball. And that was the biggest play of the game, the one we just mentioned, I think probably as far as big gainers, aside from the Emmitt run. But yeah, they're catching passes out of the backfield. So first play in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 1, Emmitt goes for 6. Very next play, I think Hamilton sacks Aikman, and we see that Emmitt can't block. You talk about that right arm, that right shoulder. They say he's the best right-armed running back in the game. Well, we saw it right there. He couldn't block for anything. He was fine carrying the ball, could not block, so it was rough. And then LT gets a big sack, and now the place is roaring. The place goes bonkers, and Madden comments that he is the most exciting defensive player he's ever seen. Harry LT in his last year, one last hurrah. I mean, it wasn't their last game, but that felt good, right?
He gave it all that he had that game. He ripped through 2-A on that play to get to Aikman. It was a huge play, and of course, LT getting a sack in the fourth quarter, down 3. Of course, it's going to light the place up. It was awesome to see that he still had a little left in the tank. And the Giants did go on to win the playoff game the week after too, and then they got rolled after that. But still,
don't ruin it for us, Harry. Don't ruin it.
But it was still good to see LT. He was playing hard the whole game. Had made a few tackles here and there, but still, that was big. That was a big play in the game.
So. 3rd and long, 3rd and 12 or 13. I think the Cowboys hit a 10-yard pass with Aikman to Johnston, and they have to punt. And then what happens? So then Haley jumps off sides on 3rd and 6. It's the first time we see Charles Haley the whole game. I feel
unabated.
like Madden's got like unabated. It's funny. Unabated comes up in the story in the game, and Madden comments that he can't say the word unabated. It's too long. It's like mayonnaise. So then they go back and forth, he and Summerall, about unabated and mayonnaise and why should they even be in the same sentence. But Haley jumps off sides, and Madden says something, Parlay Kid, like, well, that's what happens when you don't practice.
He did say that.
Did you get that?
He did say that. Well, because Haley wasn't, I guess, practicing very much because he had a lot of back issues that year.
Right.
Ended up that year with 4.5 sacks, which I guess tells the story of his back issues. And I think they pretty much just saved him for game day. I'm not sure if that's the reason why you jump offside. To be honest, right. I mean, you got to watch the football if you're on the defensive line, really. So I'm not sure if that had too much to do with practice. But he did say that. He does make mention of that.
Speaking of back issues, the Giants get the ball. They get the ball back. Sims is sacked by Jeffcoat twice over Jumbo Elliott, who had back issues back to back, and his back issues are brought up, Harry, right?
Yeah, Elliott was probably aside from Pierce and Jackson, who dropped like 5 balls combined. Jumbo Elliott, I know he was hurting, but he was bad. He was getting manhandled by the Dallas defensive line the entire game.
So a lot of back and forth. Giants still down 3. Cowboys have the ball. 3rd and 11, incomplete to Harper. Emmitt Smith was out that play, a couple plays. Giants get it back. Big pass to Callaway to the Dallas 40. Hampton now coming alive, really just moving the offensive line forward, much like Emmitt did in the first half. Big 3rd and 3 run keeps the drive alive with a minute left. And now it's looking like the Giants are going to tie it, Parlay Kid, right, with a field goal.
It sure does, Sal. And one thing I noticed rewatching this game is, for the most part, the Giants were not in a rush here. It didn't seem like, Hampton's getting a good dose of the ball. I think they had 1 timeout remaining here at this point. And yeah, I'm not feeling good, but at the same time, I'm almost thinking tie game. I didn't feel like the Giants were going to punch one in on the Cowboys at that point. Just didn't feel like
right.
I don't think Reeves wanted to make a big play down the field to risk a turnover, knowing that they can tie it and then take it to overtime. But it's still getting the heavy doses of Rodney Hampton. He was being a workhorse. He's at that point, he's ripping off 4 to 7 yards, seemed like every carry. And I know, like you said, that I wasn't too upset with the way they were running their offense there, but still a little urgency maybe to take a shot, but not, the way the game was, nobody really took a shot down the field the entire game.
I'm with the Parlay Kid. I mean, maybe things were different and we don't remember it, but I think coaches are much more aggressive these days. Reeves knowing that he can't tie this game. Obviously, you have the extra session, but it wasn't that rule where both teams get the ball, barring a touchdown. Right. You could get the ball and kick a field goal in overtime and win. So he's leaving a lot up to chance at this point. No sense of urgency. Parlay Kid, you're right, even for the field goal, let alone a touchdown. But like I said, Hampton, big run on 3rd and 3. Treadwell, with the clock running, the Cowboys call a timeout.
Why? Why did they call a timeout there?
I agree with Madden here, right? It was like 14 seconds left. They're rushing the team on the field, and the Cowboys call a timeout to ice them. It's not like they were going to run a play on offense, and they didn't after they got it back. So, yeah, that was weird to you, right, Parlay Kid?
I thought that was extremely – before Madden even said it, and as I'm rewatching it, I'm saying, why would Dallas call a timeout here? You're not really icing the kicker there. What you're really giving the kicking team a chance is to settle down, get their alignments straight. They had run on the field. I know when Dallas called the timeout, there was 15 seconds left. The Giants had their kicking team on the field already. But I just feel like when you run a kicker onto the field, you run a new line out onto the field. I just thought the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff bailed the Giants out right there by calling a timeout. It really didn't make much sense. Being that the Cowboys weren't going to use those 15 seconds to win the game at that point.
And they didn't. Yeah. And there's icing the kicker, and then there's giving the kicker a chance to regroup. And when the clock is running, obviously, like you said, they're going to get the kickoff. They're going to definitely do it. But with the wind swirling a little bit, crowds going crazy, got to make sure all the linemen don't move. Nobody moves. It's a different story. Let him kick it when he wants to kick it with the clock running down, but he nails it. What am I looking at? There it is. That was it. And I agreed with Madden there. Ties it. Cowboys get the kickoff. Aikman takes a knee with 10 seconds left. And we're going to overtime. Now, it's funny because I guarantee, Parlay Kid, with that field goal, I was thinking of us, like we must have been screaming about that. Like, oh, just let him kick it or all these other things. For the next Rewatchables, we really need to just record ourselves watching these games. And then we don't have to do a separate podcast on the Rewatchables. We could just 20 years from now, do the next Giants Cowboys game with with Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott, God willing. Let's see what happens. But they go to overtime. The boys kick off. Giants get the ball. Meggett looks to throw, and that really could have ended the game. That could have been the Giants' touchdown there, but nobody was open. Still manages to scramble and is tackled after a few yards. And then Sims, 3rd and 16, runs a little bit. They're forced to punt. Harry, what do you think? Is it over at this point?
Well, they did get a first down there in that when they did get the ball because it was all Hampton again. Got a first down, but still the Dallas defensive line held. And at that point, punting. Look, I felt okay still because Dallas hadn't gotten anything going offensively the entire second half, except when Emmitt touched the ball. And again, when Emmitt touches the ball, a lot of times he's very elusive. He's getting by the first wave, so he's getting 6-7 yards a pop. But in this spot, which was really amazing, is that Aikman and Jimmy Johnson decided to throw the ball more than run in the overtime, and they were throwing it to Emmitt, who's lined up as a wide receiver. He's lined up to the side, coming out of the backfield. And I don't know what the Giants were thinking there, but just somebody be all over Emmitt Smith because nobody else is doing anything.
Yeah.
And Emmitt Smith just decided to catch the ball, and 12 here, 8 here, 7 there. And before you know it, they're over midfield.
Well, maybe they heard you 20-something years later talking about how they had 11 Pro Bowlers, and you can't just spy Emmitt Smith. And I think they were throwing to Emmitt Parlay Kid at this point because he really just couldn't block, right? So
I think whatever it was,
just send them out.
Their feeling was, look, Emmitt's going to win us this game because it was pretty quiet that second half, understandably, because the Cowboys didn't really have the ball that much. But right there in overtime, the first 3 plays, Emmitt gets the first 3 touches. He's catching, he's running, and Madden comments, which this is something I really like what Madden said. I think sticking it to some fans and sticking it to people who think athletes are overpaid, he basically said, hey, anybody here, anybody that thinks Emmitt Smith or any of these superstar athletes are overpaid, try to put on his shoulder pads today. You know,
because
I kind of like that he said that. And because really Emmitt earned, I mean, he earned it his whole career, but you know, I know there was some people that were kind of upset about him holding out. But man, just watching him right there, those first 3 plays in overtime, like talk about a guy who wanted to win a game. He wanted to win. He came out after those first 3 touches, actually.
And he's dominating on the field. And when he did come out, there's cutaways to him just wincing. And I think that's when Madden comments is like, look at this guy. He's putting it all out there.
Exactly right.
Like you said, Paul, like at a 3rd and 3 pass to Emmitt. He's catching balls. He and Hampton catching balls. 3rd and short from the 40. He gets 5. Then he gets another 10. At this point, I think Madden comments that they both have 30 carries. Hampton and Emmitt. Emmitt ends up with 32. And then Eddie Murray comes out on 3rd down with 4:22 left, Parlay Kid. What's up with that to attempt a 41-yard field goal?
I totally forgotten about this, and I'm watching, and they trot Eddie Murray out with 5 minutes left in the overtime for a 41-yard field goal on 3rd down. We would be going bonkers right now if we saw that happen.
I think we probably did.
The fact, well, it's a good, it's not a bad idea because you could fake it here on 3rd down, or if there's a bad snap, you have another chance at a field goal. But I'm thinking to myself, how about you run the ball and get about 3 or 4 more yards at least to get a little closer? But maybe people were a lot more confident in their kickers back in 1994 than we are today in 2020. So.
And it's either that or they're like, all right, we're either going to make this field goal right now or we're going to hold the Giants defense and whatever, a tie's a win for us anyway. But yeah, you're right. Like I never bought that. Like, well, what if something happens? This is why you kick on 3rd down. Like how often have you seen like a botched snap that didn't take them out of field goal range anyway, or a fake? You're not going to fake it. You're going to run a play there. You got Emmitt Smith there.
Crazy.
Harry Reeves then calls a timeout to ice Murray. Murray nails it, 16-13 final. And we are reminded by John Madden that this was a professional football game.
Hey, listen, it was one heck of a game. Like I think Darren mentioned before, just a couple things. I think he said 62 carries between Emmitt and Rodney Hampton combined. They were both 8 of 16 on 3rd downs. Dallas 339 to 313 in total yards. And I think I counted 4 times, Sal and Darren, that if horse collaring was a penalty back then, I saw 4 times, I think, that they would have had that. But correct me if I'm wrong, but during the entire game, I mean, Jerry Markbright was the head official, and he did a heck of a job. And the referees were fantastic in that game. They really were. But I don't think there was a holding or a personal foul call the entire game.
It was like a chop block, I think.
The chop block, personal in the 4th quarter, but a personal foul, really, and a holding call I don't think was called the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guess what? It was kind of liked it a little bit better that way than when we see all the flags today, right? So absolutely, I had no problem with it. Let them play a little bit, and those guys played hard. So
the hitting, Darren, the hitting was so good, and something I wanted to mention too. Tackling was great, but with 6 minutes to go, by the way, in the 4th quarter, Emmitt rolled right to on carry, and Mark Collins lowered his shoulder and drove it into Emmitt's shoulder into the ground, and that's another time when Emmitt came out and Coleman came in for him, and that was some shot that he gave him, and he still finished the game. And like you said, catching the ball where he's clutching his arm and still making plays.
Yeah, it was fun. Limited officiating involved. Not too many turnovers, so you didn't have to see if a ball was an interception, hit the ground, or anything like that. It was just kind of like your basic hard-hitting game. Yeah. The refs didn't get involved. Actually, the one time they did get him, they called like a what was it? Like a defensive holding call against whoever was covering Michael Irvin, I think, but we didn't see it, right? It was
they didn't show Cowboys. It, right? And that was kind of big at the time. It didn't turn into any points, but that's the one time they showed it, and it would have been on if it was going to be on anybody, it would have been on Greg Jackson, number 47. But he just made a heck of a play there. So where was the call?
Cowboys flooded the zone. It was very, very weird play call. I don't know what went on there, but a lot of fun. Great game. Like I said, as far as a regular season game goes, I don't remember a playoff atmosphere like that. Certainly not watching from my Aunt Chippy's room in Las Vegas with these guys. We're all facing the bed, and we have our feet on the pillows facing probably, I don't know, like a 21-inch TV. I don't know. It couldn't be more than that.
It probably was, yes.
Things have changed. But I don't know. Is that worse than what we're going through now where there's no sports? No way. We'd kill to have that back. Ugh. As Harry brought up, the Giants have to play the next week. They had already known. It's so funny that they already known that the loser of the game was going to host the wild card game. The Giants did. They won 17-10 over the Vikings. I think Jim McMahon was the quarterback for that Vikings team. 17-10. Giants move on. They get crushed 44-3 by the 49ers. Cowboys get the bye. They beat the Packers, who I guess upset the Lions. They had to play them again a second week. Cowboys win 27-17. Cowboys 38-21 over the Niners, and then Cowboys 30-13 over the Bills. And Parlay Kid, this is why, people talk about dynasties. I put the Cowboys right up there not because they strung together Super Bowl wins and whatever they did, but look at the teams they beat. Look at the quarterbacks they beat. Brett Favre, Steve Young, every year. Jim Kelly, very underrated. Greatest AFC team of all time, Buffalo Bills. I don't care what anyone says. There it is. That's why they were a dynasty. Go ahead. Say what you want, Parlay Kid. I know you agree.
Yeah, no, listen, the Cowboys, 3 out of 4 years right there, Sal? They almost could have been 4-time champs. Maybe if Jimmy Johnson hadn't left, who knows how many they could have won with that. What dynasty? I'm not sure what we consider a dynasty to be. I look at maybe 3 in a row for a dynasty, but they're as close as you can get, and they were what a team. Offensively, defensively, what was their weakness? They didn't have one weakness amongst them. So I'm not sure if we're going to – we've seen the Patriots like that, but I'm not sure if the Patriots had some of the names that the Cowboys even had from the teams back then.
It's incredible. It's incredible what they did. And they won 30-13 over the Bills. Parlay Kid, we were losing that game 13-6 at half. We went for a walk. I mean, that was the Thurman Thomas helmet game, right? And James Washington picks up the fumble. Emmitt Smith goes crazy. I think they had so if it was 13-7.
That's it.
Yeah, they scored 23. Yeah, 30-13.
Was that also, Sal, the Leon Lett play year? Was that Leon Lett?
That was Cowboys Bills. That was 52-17.
No, I'm talking about the snow game when Lett slid in.
The Thanksgiving game. I think that might have been that year. Yeah,
was that year?
I think it might have been. Now they
one
all roll
of their
into each
4
other.
losses of the year. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know why.
Madden mentioned something about Leon Lett after Williams made that fumble. He said something about Leon Lett at that point. Remember?
We're going to have to rewatch it again and come back next week and do another hour on it. But anyway, there you go.
Emporia State,
Cowboys, Giants, Emporia State. Giants, Cowboys, fun game, January 2nd, 1994. That brings us to our sponsored segment, Captain Morgan's Make Believe Riverboat Casino, where each week the Degenerate Trifecta and I, we set sail tackling pretend propositions related to sports and pop culture events. The captain asked us this week, he was like, wow, this was such a dynamite overtime game. What is the most exciting overtime pro football game you've ever seen? We'll keep it within the last 30, 40 years because that's what we've seen. Falcons, Patriots, Super Bowl, obviously has got to be close to the top 28-3, 5-2 odds. Oilers Bills, big Frank Reich comeback in 93, 3-1 odds. The Tuck Rule game, that's Brady, put him on the map right there, 9-2. Cowboys-Giants, which we just reviewed, 6-1, or the field, 3-2. Parlay Kid, what do you think? What's the most exciting overtime pro football game?
There's been several of them. I like everyone you just said. There was another one I was thinking about taking. It was a Dolphins Chargers matchup in about 1982, if you remember that. It was Dan Fouts and Don Strock battling it out. That was a fantastic playoff game, I even believe.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything can really match. I know the overtime wasn't thrilling, but the Patriots Falcons. The comeback by the Patriots, when you really look at that game, and I know the Oilers-Bills game was close. That actually might have been a greater point differential. But just the way every single thing, every play had to break right at a certain point for the Patriots, and everything just broke right. And just watching that game and kind of rooting for the Patriots, and you could just see how it was all coming together, and you just started saying, they're really going to win this game. I don't think anything can really top that because of where you were in the season. It's the last game of the season, Super Bowl. I think we'd all sign up for an overtime Super Bowl game any year.
For sure.
And that was just really capped off Tom Brady's greatness right there. So that to me was the single greatest overtime game in NFL history.
That was Brady's win for sure. He gets all the credit there. I was not rooting for the Patriots. Not only did I have the Falcons, I had the Falcons plus 3.5. I bought the freaking half a point. So, all right. So even all the nonsense to tie it up and to go to overtime, I still have a good shot. And Patriots come down first possession right down their throats and lose by 6, not 3, not 3.5. So that was a big loss. All right, Harry, what about you? Most exciting overtime football game?
You know what? Sorry, brother Bry out there when you watch this, but I'm going to take the Tuck Rule against your Raiders. Speaking of buying a half, Sal, I had that game. I had the Pats. I bought them from 3 to 2.5, which was allowed in Vegas at the time. I was there. And speaking of dynasties, that really started it, I mean, it was Vinatieri kicks the field goal to tie it, but in the driving snowstorm. But the Tuck Rule was just insane. That was. I mean, you watch Gruden's analysis of what happened in that, and it's great. Listen to him; he's so upset about it. But I mean, talk about a perfect storm situation for literally for the weather and everything that was going on for the Patriots. And then, of course, like I said, Vinatieri gets the field goal in overtime. Pats, of course, win the toss. Coin toss, and Brady goes 8 for 8. He even makes a 4th down conversion. They get a chip shot, field goal, and they go on to beat Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game. And then it's somehow they're a 14-point dog in the Super Bowl. Obviously, I know that was a bad one for you, Sal, against the greatest show on turf. But listen, was there a documentary on this Tuck Rule? There should be, I guess, right?
I was just going to say, wait till you see the documentary.
Right.
That was a documentary, right? As far as you're concerned. But
sure.
It was live television. It was weird. I am going to say Oilers-Bills.
Yeah.
1993, almost a full year. It was actually January 3rd, 1993. So 364 days, 366 days before this game, this Cowboys-Giants game. First of all, I should say Seahawks-Packers NFC Championship 7 years ago. That was an excellent one too, I consider. But January 3rd, 1993, Parlay Kid, it was 35-3 at one point, I think at half. Then Frank Reich masterminds a comeback. Kelly's out because they have to play the week before. Houston beats Buffalo the week before 27-3. I don't know if people don't remember that, but Jim Kelly suffers some strained ligaments in his knee. So it's Frank Reich gets the call, jumps down 35-3 after 4 Warren Moon touchdowns, and he masterminds an insane comeback. It's 28-3 actually at the half. Andre Reed, 3 touchdowns, onside kicks. Guys were wide open. It really was insane how open some of these guys. Lofton was, Metzelaars, it was crazy. Then Nate Odoms picks off Moon's 50th pass in overtime. The Oilers had the ball first. Steve Christie kicks a 32-yard field goal, and that's it. And they win that game right there. And Paulie Kid, you added a stat about overtime. So we saw overtime in this Giants game. Giants got the ball, didn't win. The one I just brought up, Bills, Oilers, Oilers get the ball. They didn't win. What are the numbers?
Right there? So when CBS showed the stat back in that Cowboy-Giant game, they said that now remember, again, you just mentioned it, the first team to score won. So if you got the ball first, you score, the game is over, not like it is today. So it was the team that won the coin toss won the game because obviously they took the ball. They won the game 47% of the time.
Wow.
The team that lost the toss won 46% of the time, and the other 7% ended up in ties. So
that's unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable. You would think that getting the ball first would have been such a big advantage in those days with that rule in particular, but it really wasn't any advantage, actually.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like teams played for the tie more. They must have run more. They had to have run. We know now for a fact.
More conservative, I guess.
Passing is so much higher. The one thing that I thought about here with this Bills-Oilers game, do you think, Parlay Kid or Harry, do you think maybe if the Bills knew they were about to lose to the Cowboys 52-17, the Super Bowl, they would have just bowed out to the Oilers and lost this dumb wild card game and not had to deal with it because they had to go on the road and win. I think they won in Pittsburgh and then they crushed Miami in Miami. I think it was like 29-10, but then they get slaughtered by the Cowboys, and which was my, I think, favorite sporting event of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously it's still, they loved making it, or they 4 in a row, right? So, I mean, obviously, but still, that was again, that blowout game against that was in the Pasadena. That was a Rose Bowl, right?
Yep, that was it.
That was it.
That was senior year of college for me.
Dallas was clicking. That's all you could say at that time. They were clicking that year.
What a fun team this Cowboys team was, Parlay Kid. We'll never see it again.
It doesn't seem like we will, but they do have some talent now.
They do.
Is there?
No, I mean, you'll never see it again because it's 11 Pro Bowlers, and you just can't keep. I mean, I guess we're coming as close to possible.
It's so hard nowadays
if we get
to do it.
Yeah,
you're right. It was different back then with the way you could keep players. The Cowboys could keep almost anybody they wanted to keep. And Jerry Jones was willing to pay, so that was a big advantage for the Cowboys back then because of the money that Jones had.
Right. Jim Cunningham, you have anything to add right now? You usually have something funny for best overtime, favorite overtime game, or do you? Jim is still steaming about Harry's audio issues, so he might not be.
No, my connection keeps breaking up too. But I was thinking, in week 1 of the 1998 season, the New York Jets, I think it was Glenn Foley, looked real good. We went to overtime against the 49ers and pinned the 49ers on the 4-yard line. And first play from the 4-yard line, Garrison Hurst took it 96 yards to end the game. I remember that.
You remember that?
Absolutely. I do remember that.
Yeah,
that's very sad that makes your top. How many did we list there? 5.
We were close. We made it to overtime. The Jets.
All right, poor Jim.
It's the closest we did.
Yeah. There you go. All right, that's another week of Captain Morgan's Make Believe Riverboat Casino. No matter how you live like a captain, Captain Morgan reminds you to please drink responsibly. Captain's orders. All right, we did it, guys. We did almost an hour, I think, on the Cowboys-Giants.
Very nice.
That was fun, right? Yeah. Harry, what do you got? Where can people find you?
Good time. You can find me AAO Harry on Twitter. Obviously, Odd Shark. I've got articles this week. Also, Best Bet Corner and
Parlay Kid. What about you?
I'm at the Chalk Talker, Sal. And as we all know, let's just keep everybody healthy out there. Right? Be safe, be healthy. Let's do the right things, and so we can get our lives back to normal as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you know what would be great if we could just only go through this once. Wouldn't that be terrific? If we didn't have to go through waves and waves and waves like we hear about it, but stay inside. Hopefully we're entertaining you with these rewatchables. I am going to be on one tomorrow with, whenever this posts, but with Bill Simmons, we're doing Tommy Boy, Bill Simmons, Sean Fennessy, myself. I love Farley. Awesome. 25 years. Insane that it's been 25 years since that movie's come out. Parlay Kid and I think, will be back with Brother Bry next week to do game 1 of the Mets-Yankees World Series 2000. No, that's it. No, you all right with that, Jim?
Looking forward to that one, Sal.
That's going to be fun. He was just getting the audio to work, too. So that's that. For Harry, Darren the Parlay Kid, and heel producer Jim Cunningham, I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicapping.